Good morning, sim captains and crew, and welcome today to Pittsburgh International Airport. It's the Saturday before the Indianapolis 500, and we've been contracted for a charter flight over to Indianapolis from Pittsburgh. Our aircraft today will be the ERJ 145XR from their recently released ERJ Family. Welcome aboard. For today's video, we'll focus mainly on the flight itself. We have a brief overview video, a first look if you will, on the channel already. Please feel free, if you're interested in just seeing the highlights, to take a look at that. For today, this will be my third flight in the aircraft, and Embraer is different than what I'm used to flying, as Boeings and light GA are normally what I fly. As such, some of the system's interfaces will be different, and no doubt I will make some errors. I did try and do a flight yesterday to familiarize myself with the systems, so hopefully we'll be able to go through that today without many problems. But I really would just like to show this aircraft off because it was a wonderful flying plane and it's new to the market and there's been quite a bit of anticipation. If you'll notice, the air stairs fold down. We have our pitot covers and our engine covers. We'll go ahead and remove those for this part of the pre-flight. We're not going to do an in-depth one here. We'll click those off. We've removed our chocks already. We'll go ahead and put the power unit out here so that it's ready and plugged in. So now I'll just run through the before start checklist. Feel free to follow along if you desire. We'll take a look and make sure that our heating systems are properly on and that the switches are in their correct configuration. We'll continue on down the checklist. We'll verify that the thrust levers are in the idle position, that our trim is set. We'll zoom in here on the center ICAS display where you can see it's in the lower right hand corner. While we're there, we'll verify our total onboard fuel. Next we'll go to the menu. We'll fast forward ahead and go ahead and run through the before start checklist. And now we'll begin setting up our FMS. This is the custom FMS included with the ERJ 145. I'm not sure how an actual one is supposed to work because I'm not familiar with the Embraers. However, with all the information input in properly, it seemed to function really well on this flight. If you haven't had a chance to read the owner's manual and learn how to use this FMS, the FMS on the first officer's panel, as you notice, is the installed default one. So if you're more comfortable with that, you can use that to set up your navigation until you can become more familiar with it. The included FMS Once you get everything installed properly, it will give you top of descent information. It will give you takeoff, thrust settings, and altitude crossing, and it functions very much like a normal included FMS. So it does not have near the limitations of the default FMS. We've initiated the APU start, so we're going to wait for that to reach 99, 100%. And then we'll be able to get the APU generator on and the APU bleeds as well, and continue the start procedure. Below our MFD, we'll click over, take a look at the electrical system page where it shows us our APU power that's available, as well as our ground power and those off the engines. We'll disconnect the ground power unit now, as we have the APU on, and we'll clear the warning lamp. Since we're done with the ground power unit, we can remove it at this time.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines. Operation complete. Set parking brake. Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Next, we'll begin the engine start procedure. First, you have to open the clear guard, and then turn the switch to the start position. We'll watch for a good spool on N1 and EGT. There's no fuel run control, as these are FADEC controlled engines, and most of that is automated and takes care of itself. Once we get a good start on number 2, we'll then move to number 1. Now that 2 is stable, we'll do the same and repeat the process with number 1. Again, hold that switch for 3 to 5 seconds or so, and then monitor engine number 1. And since we are pushed back from the gate but not yet airborne, we'll verify that our transponder is in a standby position. We'll wait, of course, for the TARA until we're about to take the runway. Verify our takeoff information. The Embraer does have a thrust mode control down here behind the throttles, so we're going to make sure that's in the takeoff configuration and then verify that we have a takeoff mode selected on the engine control system. We can prepare to shut down the APU, so we'll stop the APU bleeds, and then we'll turn on our packs and our main engine bleeds, and then we can begin shutting down the APU. You can see now the APU is still running, as we do have a voltage there. A final glance through our fuel and a couple of the other switches there, and then we'll go ahead and shut our APU down. As you can see, it does have an on-off start position. The correct way to shut the APU down is to press the stop button control next to it, and then we'll wait for it to spool down. Excuse me. And we'll be getting ready for our taxi. So we'll get our lights on, and probably should have had the seatbelt no smoking sign already on. We'll give the sterile cockpit light on as well. Wipers aren't needed at this time. We'll pull up our checklist, take a quick glance at that, and then We'll pick up close to the departure into the runway.
Pittsburgh INTL Information Sierra 2100 Zulu weather. Wind 210 F12, visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 4000 view, 9000.
Takeoff okay.
Approaching 2-8 center.
No takeoff brakes.
We'll run through the before takeoff checklist. Our fuel's okay. Takeoff briefing we'll imagine we've done. Ice protection we have on. Verify our transponders and TARA. And then our after takeoff is pretty standard. So we'll go ahead and not concern ourselves too much with that this time.
Approaching 2-8 left. On runway 28 left. Caution, short runway, short runway.
V1, rotate, V2.
At this point, I was trying to fly direct Diline, D-I-L-I-N-E. I'd read the manual on this, but I kind of skimmed it. If you actually look through it, it's in section 5. It gives you a detailed how to do this. If you follow the manual on how to get this MCDU to work, it will work. I later looked it up in the manual and was able to get this back on track. I'm just navigating right now, trying to use the heading, get back on my ground track, as you can see there on the
Autopilot.
MFD HSI,
Autopilot.
and then we'll get it straightened out. And by going to the flight plan waypoints and selecting the down arrow, the desired fix, and then the right key functions as a direct. So now we're flying direct our waypoint there. And we're switching over fully to the FMS for navigation. As you can see, our magenta leg is selected there. And we're continuing our cruise up to the flight plan. What a beautiful aircraft, you know, it really does look nice on the inside and out. We'll be doing some more flights with this as well, and maybe some biz jet flights in the Legacy to some interesting airports. Go ahead and click off our lights here and ding the cabin as well, or release them to let them know everything's okay. Let our passengers let them know. There's the 1,000 to go as we cross flight level 330, 340. Again, our level off here. Now with the ERJ not having auto throttles, as we level off or reduce our rate of climb, we'll start bringing the power back, and we just want to manage that. We get the speed caret there on our speed tape. So you can set that for this flight. We have Mach 0.78, which I believe is a common cruise speed for the ERJ Legacy series. So as we level off, of course, the speed will creep up if we keep that thrust setting. I'm just going to pull it back a little bit at a time until we can get that Mach 0.78 cruise speed. It varies. Sometimes it'll drift a little bit, 0.01, 0.02 Mach, but just try and keep it really close there, again, without those auto throttles. It does have one hidden on the screw on the top left side of the autopilot panel there. That screw is a hidden auto throttle, which I believe works only in cruise, but I elect not to use it. But it's there should you choose to. Just take a quick look here with our pop-out FMC just to verify our waypoints and our crossing altitudes as we prepare here. We're not too far. This is a short flight, I think around 300 miles. And so our cruise is very short and the top of descent does come rather quickly. That's a nice little feature having that pop out there as we cruise along. Allows you to keep your eye point up rather than having to glance down to the right where the FMC normally resides. So it's convenient just to have there. You can elect to use it or not use it obviously, but it was some good thought by the developer to include it. And just a quick look at a couple of the cockpit. You can see the 3D detail that's put in there. I don't know that I showed it on this flight here, but if you zoom in on the screens, you can actually see small flecks of dust, fingerprints, and the actual individual pixels of the LCD displays, which is really, really cool. As we just flip over here, we can check the electrical page, hydraulics, fuel, and we'll turn the temperature down here. We're in the sun. Let's just see if this works here. So we'll twist that knob slightly to the left, and look at that. The crew temperature has decreased. Now we're 17 degrees instead of 20. Pretty cool. That works. All right, so let's just settle back in for the cruise, and we'll get back with you guys later here. Oh, I forgot to put that switch down into the cruise mode, so we'll take care of that while we're here. As we near top of descent, we'll go ahead and turn on our no smoking and our seatbelt signs. For any passengers who happen to be up and about, turn on our sterile cabin light as well to let the flight attendants know we won't be needing any further service. Just do a quick run through, make sure all of our switches are in the appropriate positions, as they should be. I've noticed this Embraer, there's not a whole lot to do. It's a lot of the automated systems are pretty easy and kind of flow really well. So if you're coming from other aircraft, especially the Boeings, as I have more experience, the 75, 76, 737s as well, it almost seems like you're forgetting a couple things here because it takes care of itself. Anyway, we'll run through the descent checklist here, make sure everything is appropriate, and begin our descent into Indianapolis. And now it's time for us to go ahead and descend. Our next crossing restriction will be above flight level 240. So we'll ease the power back here and begin our descent. We have 24,000 selected, and our speed, we'll use 270 knots indicated above flight level 180. And we'll click speed over here. That'll hold us at 270. And then by using our throttle, again, this aircraft doesn't have auto throttles. So by using our throttle, if we pull it to flight idle, then it'll begin a steeper rate of descent to hold that 270 knots, or we can add power to kind of flatten out that descent rate. But we would just want to be down to flight level 240 by our next waypoint there. So that's how we manage the speed in Embraer. So we're crossing Jeter at flight level 240. Take a look at our waypoints here further up. Snake Pit is above flight level 140, of course. And so just trying to stay one or two waypoints ahead of the aircraft. That way we can make sure as we near one, we can go ahead and adjust the altimeter, the altitude on the autopilot, so that we don't bust any altitude restrictions. And by managing your power, you can keep a more or less constant descent down, or you can fully pull power back, and then you kind of end up stepping down, which isn't the most efficient. But again, with me being new to this aircraft, and this route in particular, I haven't flown, so I'm just more or less, I'd like to get to the lower altitude and level off. Of course, when it does level off, I do have to add power to keep that 270 knot speed. So
a new type of flying. Definitely, it's more involved than some of the larger aircraft that have obviously the auto throttle, and you kind of don't realize how much the aircraft does for you until you fly one of these. But I'm really enjoying this flight so far. The only hang up, like I said, was getting the flight plan activated in the FMS. But a quick reference over to, I think it was section 5.3, if I remember right, of the airplane manual, not the FMC manual, but of the airplane manual. It set me right through there. Got it all squared away. And we're continuing on our descent on the Snake Pit to arrival here in Indianapolis. Again, just monitoring our speed and watching the altitude as we descend down to flight level 140. About to make a slight course adjustment here. And the weather appears to be nice. I think there's going to be a slight wind out of the north, so it should provide a little crosswind for us. But temperature's okay, and I know a lot of our fans on board this aircraft today. We're looking forward to the 4th running of the Indianapolis 500. So we're going to get them there safely, and maybe they can enjoy some St. Elmo steak downtown tonight. As we descend here, there's one thing I wanted to show off and refresh myself here on how the speed hold versus flight level change or filch works. Now, if you click on the card here on the left side of the menu, you get a 4-page FAQ or help document. So you can skim through it, and the developers have included pretty good information here. Should you get yourself in a sticky situation or just want to learn how to use it. Again, some of the systems logic in the Embraer coming from the general aviation aircraft, which I think use the Bendix systems, or of course Boeing uses its system logic. I find that this is a little different. That's not to say it's more or less difficult. It's just different. So once you understand how the control logic works, then I think you over time get more comfortable with it, and before you know it, it'll probably be second nature. So we're nearing our initial approach fix here for runway 23 right at Indianapolis, crossing 10,000 feet. We'll get our lights on at this time.
High speed.
And continue our descent down here. We're only probably 10 minutes away at this time.
High speed. High speed. High speed. High speed.
The high-speed warning can get quite annoying sometimes as you're descending through that 10,000 feet. And again, with the auto throttles, you really have to be ahead of the flight profile of the aircraft. Otherwise, you end up, even if it's 1 to 2 knots over, you're still going to get that high speed. So something to keep in mind as you're flying this plane, and again, a little different from some of the other aircraft you might be accustomed to.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
And as I'm lining the aircraft up here, we'll disconnect the autopilot and start bringing it in. I am quite high, as you can see out there by the Pappies. I'm on the localizer, but I'm not quite sure why the glide slope didn't show up on this. I believe it does have a localizer and glide slope. I'd have to refer back to the charts right now, but we've got good visual on it as we duck below this cloud deck and continue the approach in. Again, weather is above minimums. We do have visual, so I don't have any reason to not. We'll just try and ease the power back, control the trim, get the flaps out, and try and recapture the visual glide path.
Too high. Too high.
Okay, we're
Approaching.
recovering
2, 3, right.
pretty nicely here. We're still a little high. Again, we'll just watch the power. Try to bring it down here. There's a little bit of wind there from the right. Seems to be a little bit more pronounced down here, as a matter of fact. There we're really close. There we got almost on our path there. The wind is pushing to the right here.
100.
We have separate rudder pedals as opposed to the joystick, and we'll try and hold the nose and flare, lead off the energy way over to the left here. And hold it. There we go, we'll get it down. Get the thrust reversers going here. And get it slowed down. Or turn off right up in here. We'll cancel the thrust reversers about 80 knots. Looks like our spoilers auto-deployed when we went to thrust reverse, so that's convenient. I did not do an auto spoiler arm. We'll get it slowed down here, get on the brakes, turn off, vacate the runway, 3 right here at Indianapolis. We'll go ahead and get the transponder off. start cleaning the aircraft up, get the spoilers down, get our flaps back up to 0. Try and stay on the center line here. Go ahead and get our taxi light on. Our other lights off here. Some general housekeeping as we continue our taxi. Not sure that we really need to turn off our heated windscreen or not. Maybe not. But kick those off. Leave them on. I don't know what you're supposed to do there, to be honest with you. Probably pull the checklist out and tell me, but we're here and that's the important part, so we'll just continue on. Go ahead and get our APU turned on here. That way we'll have some type of power and climate as we get ready to shut down the aircraft at the gate. And again, race fans, welcome to Indianapolis. Hope you had a good flight with us. Thank you for flying with Flight Brothers FT today. Again, hope you enjoy the Memorial Classic tomorrow, and let us go ahead and remind you that in the morning, Formula One race is live from Monaco, and it will be followed for NASCAR fans by the Charlotte or Coca-Cola 600, not sure what they call that anymore, but it's a full day of racing for all of you. Again, we'll wait for our gate to open up here. We'll make the right turn in. Welcome to Indianapolis. And one final time today, we'd like to thank you for joining us on Flight Brothers FT, where we flew from Pittsburgh to Indianapolis, bringing a bunch of race fans over for the Indy 500. And we took a flight in the X-Crafts ERJ 145XR. As always, plan the flight and fly the plan.